This morning's story talks fundamentally about trust in God. A couple of years ago, somebody sent me this little story, and it went like this. I was recently putting together a table and chairs set for our patio. I had almost finished assembling the table, and I realized I was missing a small, crucial piece of hardware. I began searching through all the packaging material, certain that it had to be somewhere there. And sure enough, I found the small washer in a plastic bag that I had discarded. This made me think. I firmly believed that a foreign company could make the parts for a table in an overseas factory, ship all the pieces in the box, including everything necessary to put it together. I've had enough faith that they were not going to leave me short on table parts, and that I will have everything I need to put the table together successfully. If I believe that, then why don't I believe that the God of all creation would give me everything I need to overcome any obstacle in my life? Isn't that how it is sometimes? We find ourselves trusting a random company more than we trust God. I realize that there are so many things in our world that I trust. In actual fact, we wouldn't be able to live and operate if we didn't trust things or people. Things or people that I don't even know. I don't know their backgrounds, I don't know their upbringings, and I certainly most times don't know their motives. Yet, for the most part, I trust them with my life, with my health, with my safety, with my money, with all sorts of things. I trust them. I want to pause here for just a second, because this narrative has given all sorts of bad press to snakes, but most especially woman and Eve. You see, the one thing that is maybe not made clear enough in the text is that when the snake approaches the woman and begins a conversation with her, the man, Adam, is standing right next to her. He's not somewhere far off in the garden doing something else, unaware of what is happening, unaware of the conversation and the exchange between Eve and the snake. He knows and hears everything that is going on, and yet when Eve turns to him and gives him some of the fruit, he still takes it. Scriptures and theology say that it was from the fall of man that Jesus was raised up to save mankind. But nonetheless, we have the snake that enters and begins this conversation with Eve. Listen to his words. Did God really say to you, you shouldn't eat from any tree in the garden? Did God really say that? That you mustn't eat from any tree in the garden? It's as if in that cunning and clever way, he simply starts by wanting to engage her. That any tree in the garden. Well, that's not true. She replies, just the one tree in the middle of the garden. But the snake already introduces this, did God really say? He begins to introduce some kind of doubt, an undermining of what God's intentions and purposes are for creation, but for humankind. Has God really got your best interest at heart? He's saying. Can God really be trusted? Or is it that He's keeping the best for Himself and keeping you and Adam somewhere down there in your ignorance? And so we see the snake beginning to poke, beginning to pull apart the trust that Adam and Eve have in the goodness and the providence of God, in His promises for Adam and Eve. Of course, the woman replies and says, no, God said, you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, nor shall you touch it, or you shall die. Well, if you go back and you have a look at the scriptures, you will see that God doesn't tell them not to touch it. He says you may not eat from it. So there's a little bit of legalism seems to creep in there. God said we shouldn't eat the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden. And so we have it. Essentially, the snake undermines humanity's trust in God in that very moment, signaling to Eve and to Adam, who's standing right there, that perhaps God cannot be trusted. Yet somehow they seem to trust the words of this slippery character of the snake. They seem to give some kind of credit to him. Yet, who is he and where has he been through this unfolding narrative? They seem to give credit to the snake. Perhaps we begin to hear an echo in our own lives about the kinds of voices that we listen to and the voices we take seriously. We quickly realize that it's not just about trust, but it's also a deep desire from inside humanity to be independent, to want to go their own way and do it the way that they think is right. Again, some of that echoes down even to us today. The desire to go our own way. We want to make choices in life. We want to go the way that we think will benefit us the most. And so the two eat from that fruit. Their eyes are opened enough to see that they are naked and vulnerable. It's the beginning of the end.